Good morning. And now here's David with our scripture for this morning.
Good morning. Today's scripture is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to lose, and a time to seek. A time to tie up, and a time to untie. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to keep silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. And now it's time for Reverend Macaulay to give us the lesson sermon.
Well, good morning. The title of today's lesson is On the State of the Union in 2011. And you know, President Obama gave a State of the Union speech on Tuesday, so I thought it would be appropriate to talk about the State of the Union, of our union. So here we are in the first month, January 2011, the last Sunday service of January. The first month of the year seems to have flown by, and February begins day after tomorrow. I woke up this morning pondering what I would discuss today. Actually, I've been pondering what to say to you all weekend. Frankly, I feel a little guilty as I look around the world and see all of the various tests others are facing. In Egypt, there's been unrest in the streets for nearly a week. The people are protesting their president's tyranny, and it appears that a revolution is in progress. One thing that amazed me in all of this was that the Egyptian government managed to turn off the internet in Egypt. For those of you who have an understanding of the design of the internet, this is an act that was previously thought impossible. In fact, the internet was designed with many redundancies built into the system to prevent just that act in itself. Our scientists who designed the operation of the internet designed the system so that there was no central nerve center. Their concern was that if a major city was destroyed, they didn't want the destruction of one city to cripple the communication system for the whole country. In other words, if Washington were bombed, people could still communicate between New York and Florida by way of the Midwest. In the US, there are so many internet providers that turning the internet off is supposedly impossible, or so we're told. Yet in Egypt, there are so few internet providers, so little redundancy, that the government was able to cripple its communication system. Of course, there was life before the internet, and people are scrambling out into the streets, and it appears that a revolution is in fact in progress. In our own country, President Obama gave the State of the Union address last Tuesday. Overall, it appears that the country is doing well, but there are many problems we continue to face. The recent call for cooperation between the major parties will hopefully enable the politicians to put aside some of their differences and get some work done. Of course, when I look at the weather report for the country, the northeast section of the country has been pummeled with snow. Flights have been delayed, airports closed, and lots of children are enjoying snow days at home with their families. Here in sunny Southern California, at least most of the time it's sunny, today it's raining, we had sunshine yesterday in the 60s. And David and I spent the day pruning our roses and fruit trees, sweeping the yard, and enjoying our new home. Our biggest problem was dealing with the thorns on the roses and worrying about what we'd do when the garbage can for the yard waste was full. We're not worried about a political revolution, whether our government is trying to turn off the internet, or whether we're going to get stuck in the snow and freeze to death. Now, we know Southern California is not immune to disaster. We worry about mudslides when there's excessive rain, wildfires when it's excessively dry, earthquakes when the time is right, and we have our demonstrations from time to time, just as others do in other cities and countries. Nevertheless, in evaluating our State of the Union this week, I almost felt guilty about our current relative lack of problems. Of course, at the same time, I got to realize that we're simply enjoying the blessings of God's universe, and that with that realization, it's only appropriate and necessary to be joyful and to express gratitude for all of our many, many blessings. We are so fortunate to live where we do, to have the gifts and blessings that fill our lives, and we get to express gratitude for our blessings. And out of that gratitude comes a special joy that we are God's creatures, enjoying our places in the universe without fear, for we know that our Father is with us, and that our Father comforts us and blesses us with every step that we take in life. In the State of the Union address, we were told that the economy is beginning to show signs of improvement, that the stock market is regaining strength, that businesses are beginning to spend money and expand, and that with that expansion, we expect more jobs to be created, and overall, we're making economic progress in the right direction. As a result of the recent shootings in Tucson, Arizona, there's talk politically about a new spirit of cooperation in Washington. Let's hope that this spirit flourishes and grows so that we can continue to make progress and continue to rebuild our country and its infrastructure. We must continue to encourage that spirit of cooperation in our daily prayers and meditations. Yes, it's been difficult in some ways, and in other ways, we've been extremely blessed to be so fortunate. So as you look around at your world this week and take inventory of the state of your union, you might take a moment to get out that gratitude list and review it, add to it. And as you review and add to your gratitude list, give thanks to God for everything on that list. Give thanks that you have the presence of mind to know enough to express gratitude. Give thanks that you had enough to eat last night, that you had a warm place to sleep, and that someone loved you enough to make you dinner, or accompany you to the doctor's office, or call and ask how you're doing. When you look at your state of your union, you can find evidence of love, joy, of radiant, vital, dynamic health, of the peace which passes all understanding, of harmony, and of an abundance of enough and to spare for all your needs now and always. If you can find evidence of all those aspects and attributes of life in your life, then you need not look at the news on TV to determine the state of the union. You have merely to look within and gaze on the God within, knowing that you live in God's universe and that your life is rich because you walk with God. You've heard all your life that with God all things are possible. That phrase appears over and over again in the Bible. And when you look at the God within, when you look for the God within, knowing that with God all things are possible, you will see evidence of the God within, as well as all around you in your universe, in your life, and in your friends and loved ones. So today's challenge to you is to look for the God within yourself and within others. Once you begin to see the God within others, it will become more obvious. And once you recognize that God within, nurture it, love it, and most of all, express gratitude for that God within, and express gratitude that you were fortunate enough to make that recognition. Know that as you are grateful, more will be added, and the abundance of gratitude increases the joy in your life many times over. So in spite of the negative political news, in spite of the bad freezing cold weather, in spite of whatever negative aspects may be out there tempting you to adopt a negative attitude, I challenge you to look for, locate, and identify the God within yourself and within others. and express joy and gratitude for all those blessings in your life and in the lives of others. I chose this morning's scripture verses because they are very familiar, and we know there is a time for everything under heaven. As we go through life and learn all the various lessons that life has to teach, it becomes obvious that the universe is filled with cycles. There are births, deaths, a time to plant, a time to sow, a time to reap, a time for joy, a time for sorrow. In weather, there's time of heat, a time of cold, a time of wet, and a time of dry. And we all experience these cycles at various times during our lives. This morning, I suggest to you that now is the time to review and add to your gratitude list and express gratitude without ceasing. As you find and recognize joy in your life and the lives of others, that joy will increase and fill your consciousness and permeate your atmosphere and your universe with abundant joy, harmony, health, and love. As we've heard so many times before, let your light so shine that others may see your good works and glorify the Father which is within. It's all up to you. Thank you for your attention this morning, and join me now in the acceptance statement. Now, may the light illumine our mind with wisdom. May love fill our heart with understanding. May the one life shine forth from our innermost being, so that we walk renewed in light, life, and love, today, tomorrow, and forever.